Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday with Pastor Dan. Today we're going to be talking about hymn 307 in our hymnal, which is God of Grace, God of Glory. One of our newer hymns, actually, I think, on our list, but it's one of those that the tune always kind of settles in with me. But the scripture that struck me to run with this, because it doesn't have a particular scripture associated with maybe what inspired the tune. But when we get in the history, maybe they'll kind of understand why. Was the story of Jesus on the beach with Peter, and Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Of course." And then Jesus says, "Feed my lambs." A second time he says, "Do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Tend my sheep." And a third time, "Do you love me?" And Peter's, of course, hurt and offended, and he says, "Yes, you know everything. You know that I love you. Feed my sheep. Very truly, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and do whatever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands. Someone else will fasten that belt, take you where you do not wish to go." He said, to indicate the kind of death which we would glorify. And after this, he said, "Follow me." And this hymn, written actually in 1930, by Henry Emerson Fosdick. It was for the dedication of it's kind of a very famous, important church, Riverside Church in New York City, formerly known as First Baptist Church. Fosdick was an ordained minister. He was ordained in 1903 as a Baptist minister, American Baptist. Has served as a chaplain in World War I, where he saw countless things that formed his faith and formed his life, and how he would serve through the death and through the pain and struggle of all that, and along with also serving during as America goes through the throes of the Great Depression. And I think that's helpful for us to really look at this hymn. Where it comes from is that America at that time was going through one of the worst periods ever, the Great Depression, World War I, coming out of that. And Fosdick, as a person, was a champion for social justice, for the social gospels, it was called at the time, which he caught flack for, and he was also celebrated for. And I mean, we would celebrate that the man was a powerful leader to love and serve the poor and the homeless and the helpless, and to bring them in. He recognized the plight of the poor, and then the church's responsibility to love and serve them, just as like Jesus tells Peter. He was an incredible preacher, a lot on the radio and also in person. He and his preaching changed a lot of the faith landscape and morphed a lot of the social responsibility within the faith and the church in and around New York City. And then the forming of Riverside Church, that was a big portion of who that church would be, as they built a new church. And this is a church of the wealthy and the poor. The church Riverside is built because of a $5 million donation by J.D. Rockefeller, but also was built in a place where they could serve those around them in need. The church to this day is a very social-driven church, a social-driven community, to do all they can to love and serve their neighbors. Interdenominational, always has been interrelational. And when I say interdenominational, it's not non-denominational, it's interdenominational. It's technically an American Baptist Associated Church and a United Church of Christ. So this hymn, God of Grace, God of Glory, was written in the summer of 1930 for the dedication of Riverside Church, for the new building, for the new... and it was, as he wrote it, he was trying to figure out who they were supposed to be, what their songs and their prayers should be about, and who they should be about. It was sang for the very first time as they all processed into the new church. And it was at the dedication. And I think it's incredibly powerful as we look at this, and Bethany will look at it a little bit deeper. The prayer in this, the refrain over and over is, "Grant us wisdom, grant us courage. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage." for the facing of the hour, for the living of these days, lest we miss thy kingdom's goal, serving the one whom we adore. Grant us wisdom and grant us courage is the call at the dedication of this new church, to be a people to love and serve the Lord, to be a people who do that work. And so out of this history, out of the plight of all those around them, out of the wealthy loving the poor, out of this commonality through race, through different belief systems, they come together and form this church who sings this song, the God of grace, God of glory, calling for wisdom and courage in powerful and meaningful ways, as Fosdick fought for those around him, lived into that, what Jesus said, tend my sheep, feed my lambs, care for my people. So when we hear this hymn, I think it's powerful to remember where it comes from, out of the Great Depression, out of someone who was fighting to love and serve those around them. And it can be our call as we call for wisdom and courage of how we love and serve one another and love and serve God. May you all have a blessed week. Look forward to seeing you soon.